Good evening and welcome to a brand new episode of Freewheeling. My name is Siddharth Patankar and I have been promising you a very fun episode. And I'm pretty sure that this episode is going to live up to that promise because the person who is about to join me right now is someone with whom we always end up creating video content that is fun to watch. And you know what? It's not frivolous fun because there's also lots of information that you will pick up because this is one person. The reason I enjoy speaking with him is because his brain's always ticking. He has a very creative mind, and I will not go on with this introduction any longer and quickly bring in Pratap Bose. There he is. Good evening or good
Hi,
afternoon, Pratap.
hi, Sid. Hi, everyone who's watching Freewheeling. Real pleasure and privilege to actually be on this new format. We are, all in lockdown, as you all
Absolutely.
know. So great to be on this format. Thanks for having me, Sid.
It's wonderful to see you. And of course, I said good afternoon to Pratap because he's joining us from his home in Warwick because he was in the UK when this, and of course, he lives there when this lockdown started. And so I hope, firstly, everything's okay there. You, your family, everybody's safe.
Yes, we are all fine. Luckily, we're having a run of great weather, Sid, and the days are quite long. Till we have light till about 8:30 in the evening. So at least that keeps the mood,
Yeah.
quite positive.
That's great. A lot of people are signing in and starting to say hello to you. I must tell you that
Oh,
because there's lots of people who are already wishing you and saying hi. And so, guys, lots of time. I promise we will have that for your questions. And I know many of you have a lot of questions as well to ask Pratap. And so, hang in there because I have plenty that we're going to go through hopefully in the next, well, let's see, I'm going to say half an hour, but I'm sure it's going to extend to being longer than that because that's
as
what
always.
happens. Yeah, that's what happens with us, right? Okay. So, Pradap, first things first. The current situation not easy for anyone, and certainly not for the automobile industry as well. But specific to your kind of work, and the fact that you have teams that work out of two different continents as well. How has it been sort of working? The communication part of it, the keeping some of the actual productivity and creativity going.
Yeah, absolutely right, Sid. This is a interesting time for us as an industry. Of course, BS6 transition just has happened while we had the lockdown. So that's of course one side of it. The other side is, like you said, we are actually. I pride myself in saying that we are one design team in three global locations: UK, Italy, and India. And of course, no country has really, avoided this issue that we're going through today. Now, design is of course a very, very collaborative discipline, as you know. There's lots of us involved doing various parts of the car design that need us to actually be face to face. And in most cases, we are walking around a physical 3D full size model, a clay or whatever it is. And when you discuss with your teammates, that's when I think the best ideas come. Having said that, Sid, as we've gone through a very intense phase of new product introduction, and we are now in the design phase of the next generation. So luckily, this phase we are able to actually undergo and carry out while we are on lockdown. We are using digital tools like everyone else. So I have reviews with all my chief designers in UK, Italy, and India. And you can spin a digital model on the screen. You can zoom in, zoom out. You can put lighting. You can render. So we are using sort of every digital tool that we can draw upon.
Right.
So, but of course, nothing beats the banter, the chat, the cups of coffee with each other. I think that's difficult. Everyone is working in isolation, even though you can communicate. I think there's something in a power of a group of people coming together, especially in design, that leads to some great work.
You what you spoke about, it in a way, the reason why I think a lot of this is carrying on the work itself, because you're right. Without this kind of technology, the fact that we're all connected virtually this way, and especially in a creative medium like yours, like you said, you can even put in light from different angles and things like that.
Yeah.
None of that was
Yeah.
possible. What, just a few years ago?
That's right. There was some very rudimentary, let's say, programs, etc., available. But where we are today with virtual, digital modeling and digital presentation software, and of course the people who use that software alone doesn't do anything, as you all well know. We've got some great people who actually run these programs, and that gives us a very, very accurate depiction of what's going on in the designer's mind. So, like I said, we can rotate the models on the screen.
Yeah.
We can light them in certain ways. We can put paint shades on them, how they look in a dark light, or a dark shade or a light shade. These tools have become really, really very advanced. Of course, it doesn't take away from the fact that I still believe the physical model is very important. But just purely the situation we are in, I think the digital tools are really helping us move the work along.
Tell me this though, that I mean, this is just lifting off from what you just said. Do you foresee a scenario where clay modeling and just that the physical aspect of design could altogether disappear? Maybe if not in the current generation itself, then and of course I don't mean model generation, but generation of designers. But the up and coming designers, the guys who are now joining the trade, who are interning or at entry positions in your teams, uh, by the time they get to where you are, or am I just reading too much into it and there's nothing like a clay model at the end of the day?
No, Sid, you're absolutely right. I think my generation of designers who graduated or who came out even 20 years ago, 20, 25 years ago, and where kids are today when they graduate, their ability with digital tools is far beyond what we could have imagined. So what we saw earlier is that when you made a digital model and then let's say you milled a full size clay, the gap used to be very big. What you perceived on the screen and what you saw in full size, that gap used to be huge. Now that's reducing. I think the younger generation of designers are able to think already in 3D. They're able to visualize already what the product will look like in full size. And now when we go from digital to physical, that gap is definitely reducing. But what the physical model does is, see, beyond just for the designers. See, in a normal company, in a large OEM, a design sign off is actually taken. That decision is taken by a group of people. In our case, it's some members of the executive committee. The managing director, the head of the business, the head of engineering. A physical model gives them really no room for imagination. What they see is the car that's going to be produced. So there's no
Yeah.
gap in perception. This is actually the role of a physical model today. That people can see exactly how big it is. They can judge how wide, what the dimensions of the car are going to be. This is not yet the case in a digital world where someone can think it's too big, it's too small, because you can't see it relative to anything else.
But tell me this. I
And the
mean,
same, yeah.
sorry to cut in there, but I have to ask you that when you talk about being able to take that screen designed form to the milled actual clay model,
Yeah.
the fact that even that the milling process itself, earlier it was all done by hand. Now you actually have a robot
Right.
that sort of gets the command from that screen design, and so it's
Yeah.
obviously going to be that much more precise. Do you think that helps too?
Yeah, it's precise and it's very fast. So, for example, we can leave the five-axis, the robot that you mentioned, the five-axis milling machine. We can
Yeah.
leave it overnight, and we can come back to the studio the next morning, and the car is already milled in full size, which used to take weeks earlier.
Yeah.
But having said that, Sid, you look at all the lovely cars behind you, and of course, the cars we launch. There's always a human you can perceive when you look at a car. Purely the way the surfaces run, the way the lights, the highlights will flow. You have quite a few great examples behind you. All of those would have definitely been touched by the hands of a clay modeler or a designer, and it gives that extra 10% between something looking really good and something looking amazing. It's that touch of the hand which I haven't found, that we can
Hath ka
replace
kamal.
easily.
Hath ka kamal. you know, uh,
And the other thing, Sid, if I may, there's lots of movies which use virtual models.
yeah.
Obviously, there are movies which don't have anything physical at all. Something like an Avatar or even others. There, I think, digital modeling is literally playing the role it plays. It is the actor, it's the medium, it's the technology, it's everything. A lot of that is actually coming into, from gaming. That all of that is coming into automotive now. The models are lighter in terms of digital weight. They are lighter. We can make them faster. So when I talk about the lighting, the animation, all of this has actually come from the movie world.
Yeah. No, and of course, people tend to forget that that's even more helpful on interior design with textures and materials and colors. You can do so much without actually having to prepare a physical model.
Absolutely, absolutely,
Okay, now
absolutely.
I have to tell you that even though I requested people to hold on and not ask their questions yet, there's like a barrage of questions that have already come. But we'll get
Okay.
to that. I have to talk to you a little bit about the production models and, of course, all the
Yeah.
goodies you showed us at the Auto Expo. So I'll start by first speaking about the car that I'm seeing the maximum questions about, which is the Harrier. It gets
Mm.
so much attention. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
there's the big reason why it gets a lot of that attention is the work that you and your team have done. And I think I have talked about that ad nauseum, so I'm not going to drone on about it. But ever since it first came out as a concept at the previous Auto Expo, and then you brought
Yes.
the production car, you promised us a car that would look very much like that, and you delivered on that. What's it been like? That and the Nexon. I see you even on Twitter. I see you really reacting to so many owners directly. There is so much
Yeah.
love, and a lot of that really comes from the design.
Yeah, see, if I look at where we were 6 or 7 years ago, I think we had lost a lot of mind share. I call it mind share in the Indian customer. And if you don't have mind share, you can't have market share. It's as simple as that. If people don't consider you in their purchase decision, you won't sell cars or anything actually. I mean, even a channel on television has to command mind share first. So without mind share, you have no market share. So my job and the job of the team that we put together in design was really to earn back mind share first. The very fact that people are talking about us, the very fact that they're interested in even this conversation means that we've managed to gain some mind share. Now, the market share situation, of course, has lots of different parameters which I won't get into. But mind share was the first thing I wanted to capture, and design plays a huge role in that. The Harrier is particularly special. I'll tell you why. Because, and I say this all the time, the architecture of a car really defines what the design of the car is going to be. If you have the wheels in the wrong place, if the wheels are the wrong size, if the cabin to body ratios are wrong, whatever styling you do, you won't be able to cover
Yeah.
up for a poor architecture. And Harrier, the great thing was that I would say 70% of the architecture work was done by the Land Rover team, Jerry and Massimo, on that what we call the D8 platform or the D8 architecture.
And the same applies to the
Uh,
Gravitas, right?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we didn't have any struggle point of view to say, oh, can we have the wheels a little further out or forward? Or this work had really been done in the architecture of that, the platform and the product itself. So when we gave that to the design team, it was a real dream to work on, both those products. So that's the reality of the Harrier, the proportion, the muscularity, all of that is purely because the bones are in the right place. Architecture is like your skeleton. We talk about people's bone structure, so
Yeah.
to have a very good bone structure is important.
But going into it, you always knew that there was going to be the larger brother, the Gravitas. So we're seeing those shots on the screen right now. So talk to us about that. Creating the three row. Was that you start with the basic design and then kind of stretch it out, or do you start with both together? How has that worked?
Yeah, actually, we start together. When you say brothers, means they share a lot of things, of course. Even though their individual characters are very different, the Harrier customer is a particular kind, and the Gravitas is someone else. India has big families still, which is a good thing. So there's a huge need for 6, 7 seat vehicles, and we saw that when we tried it on the Hexa. The sort of let's say the demand and the conversation it generated really convinced us that we could go for a 7 seat Gravitas. And when it does come, I'm sure it'll make a road of its own, like Harrier has.
Okay. Now, we have to, of course, talk about the other car that has uh, just come to market, and it has been the one that has got a lot of attention as well. And again, mainly for its looks, I have to say, and that is the Altroz. So, both of these cars, the Harrier and the Altroz, started their life as concept cars next to each other. And they've
Yeah.
both stayed true to concept. And that doesn't always happen in this industry, and it's a promise that you lived up to.
Yeah, I always say, see, as you know, and your viewers know, different companies do concept cars for different reasons. Some do it to show a dream, which is really far fetched and ahead. Some do it to test out a product category. Some do it to test a design language. I mean, there's various reasons, and one should judge concept cars for that. And we were in a phase, where we did a lot of concept cars, which we, for many reasons, couldn't bring through into production, pixel, megapixel, etc. So Nexon actually was the first concept car we said, no, if we are showing this, we've got to get it done. So, the Nexon was started that for us. And then, of course, H5X, which turned into the Harrier, the 45X, which turned into the Altroz, and 2X, which was shown as HBX in Delhi earlier this year. So very important for us that don't show a dream which we are not going to deliver to the customer. For us as a brand, it's very important to stay true to that. Don't create something that generates a lot of conversation, etc. And then the production car either doesn't come or comes in a form that no one even can connect it to the original concept. So that's been really our endeavor. And I must say, I must compliment also the engineering team. They work very hard with us to make the shapes, the packages that we design, make them real.
What part of the Altroz, bringing it from design or concept stage to production, physically on the car, on the exterior, let's say, what part was the toughest to achieve?
So a couple of things. Of course, Altroz, many people, as you know, we just launched before we had this lockdown. So probably many people haven't seen it on the road yet. But when they do, they'll notice some really striking elements right from the front shark nose. Sid, I wanted the car to have a nice long bonnet, which is difficult to do in a hatchback, and difficult to do in a hatchback where you're giving a lot of space to the occupants. So to make the bonnet look longer, I really pulled out the nose and gave it that shark nose. So you see a nice long bonnet. There's a line which sweeps from the T logo, the slingshot line, goes all the way around on the doors, comes up on the A pillar, and then disappears on the C pillar. That is one line which is traveling on 5 or 6 different body panels. And aligning. And if you don't get the alignment of the body panels right, that line can basically it breaks and doesn't work. So again, here engineering, manufacturing, the plant team, quality teams, to align all those panels for that one line that starts at the T logo at the back, sweeps around the shoulder, goes to the base of the A pillar, comes over the cantrail and disappears into the C pillar. That's my favorite line in the car, and that was on 45X, and we managed to bring that into production.
I have to tell you that one of the things which I had planned to do after I did the review of the Altroz was to, of course, do the comparison, and we haven't had the chance to do that yet. Where I was going to, I had already planned to say that hands down, best looking car in the segment right now. But I haven't been able to
Absolutely.
do that yet, and no, and it's great that that's coming from Tata. I mean, you understand why that has so many connotations which are positive,
Yeah,
even for the industry,
yeah,
not just for
yeah.
us who maybe link it with nationalistic sort of sentiment. It's not just that, but I think it's great for the industry and it's great for the buyer to see that kind of strength coming from an indigenous manufacturer. Now, the
Yeah.
Altroz, the Harrier, the Gravitas we spoke about. I have to, I just literally have to start asking some of these questions because there's so many. Uh, there was a question just a little while ago from someone who wants to know about the launch timelines. I think it was Kuljit who asked about the launch timelines of the Gravitas. I understand that with the COVID situation, you really can't put a date on it, but what was the original plan, let's say?
I mean, we had always said that when we showed it in Noida at the Auto Expo, we'll launch it in this calendar year. So that was the original
That
plan
could
in
still
any
happen.
case. Now, So yeah,
Could still
I
happen.
hope so.
Yeah.
But like you said, we don't know what the COVID situation is going to look like, play out. So many companies have had to sort of adjust launch plans. So at the moment, Kuldeep, sorry,
Kuljit.
Kuljit, we can't really give you a date on that.
Yeah, that's understandable. I think there's a comment from Mayur, which you'll be happy to know that he's looking forward to the new age Tatas. And then there's a comment from Rakesh about the ORVMs on the Harrier create blind spots. Is that feedback that you've got?
Yeah, look, let me. It's a very simple technical explanation. When we did the Harrier, there was a requirement for three-lane visibility in the ORVM, and we really expected that to come to India and become part of the safety norms. That you need to see three lanes
Yeah.
while you're looking at the ORVM. That's a European norm, by the way. But somehow that rule hasn't materialized, and you'll see in the 2020 Harrier, we've actually created a more aerodynamic, slightly sleeker ORVM.
And that takes care of some of
So very
this.
much, feedback taken, accepted, and of course acted upon.
All right, that's great. And I have to say that safety itself, the fact that Tata has become the flag bearer for safety in terms of all the new vehicles that you're doing. Talk to us about how integrating that has to be at the core of everything that starts, even the design.
Yeah, see, we really don't make at any stage of the process a compromise on safety. For us, safety is really built into the architecture of the cars itself. The load parts, all of that, all the great work the engineers do. The structure of the body. Are we going to laser braze? Are we going to spot weld? There's lots of decisions around the body structure. And then, of course, you have to, yes, safety is looked upon in two ways. One is before the crash happens, and one is after the crash happens. And after the crash happens, all our new Tata cars are perhaps the safest place to be. Unfortunately, even when a crash happens, it's one of the safest places to be. And not only for the occupants, all our cars, including the 2020 Tiago, Tigor, Nexon, they're all also completely compliant with the pedestrian safety norms. This is very important. When the car hits a pedestrian, at a certain point in his leg, the pedestrian gets thrown onto the car, and you have to therefore design some surfaces on that car, on the bonnet, on the glass, in a certain way, which can dictate in many ways. It can dictate the height of the bonnet itself, etc. But we never compromise for that. I don't say that, oh, I wish the bonnet could have been lower. No, it is where it is because of a certain reason, which is a pedestrian. This could be you, me, it could be one of our loved ones. And we think of safety that way, that if this could have been you or me in that crash, what would that feel like?
So you don't
So
find
it's
it a
very important.
constraint. You don't think of it as a
Sorry.
constraint, or you don't think, oh, it's too bad I have to think about all these different things.
No, sir, I think the larger picture is just far too important. India does not have a good record on safety. It's not one of the numbers we can and should be proud about. And if there's anything we can do as designers and as a company to sort of bring that number down, we all talk about bringing numbers down nowadays.
Yeah.
But if we can bring those numbers down, that's our small contribution to I think safety in India and in general.
Now I'm going to end up jumping all over the place because of the kind of questions that I'm seeing. I'm trying very hard to scroll through all of them. There was a question which says number 2, so I'm guessing there was a first question. But Ankur has talked about a DCT coming on the Nexon. AMT doesn't do it justice. Now, before you answer that, because I know this is more of an engineering question, the layer I'd like to add to that is what kind of dialogue do you have? Because when you create a product that is very modern, very sexy and stylish, you also want it to be embellished with all the cooler tech and the better product line. And sometimes, of course, it's a function of budget of the segment that you're operating in, and so marketing,
Yes.
engineering obviously have their say. But do you have that kind of dialogue saying, hey, look, something like the Nexon, I would like a little bit more sophistication even in the drivetrain?
Yeah, we always do that. Look, if the design, the exterior of a car has to live up to the performance,
And
and
vice
also the
versa.
other way around.
Yeah.
You look. You look at a Ferrari, you are promised some performance by what the car looks like. So we have the similar issue with Nexon, with Altroz. They are very dynamic, very let's say agile looking cars, and therefore the powertrain engineers work very very hard to try and match that visual promise of a car. This could be any car. So if a car looks tough and capable, then that engine and the lower end torque has to be able to deliver that. If you're talking about a car like the Altroz, which is primarily an urban hatchback, premium urban hatchback, there are some expectations that the look of the car creates. So we work, yes, very closely with our powertrain teams to try and balance that. But like you said, see, you always have to keep in mind the mass of the customer in a particular segment.
Yeah.
What they are buying, what's affordable, what's accessible. I think, and the other mistake that a lot of people make is that they throw a lot of terms at you. DCT, AMT, torque converter. See, I think instead of getting into that, you should sit in the car and really experience it for yourself. Does
That's
it
fair.
really meet
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
expectations?
Okay.
Forget about if it's DCT or if it's AMT or whatever. Does it give you the performance it promises and you expect? So I would I would rather ask people to look at technology in that way. Does it do the job you want it to do? Forget about the name. Forget about the so many BHP and this, that, and the other. What will make sense to you on a daily basis will be how the car performs when you're driving it.
Okay, and one of the things that always happens on these chats is that when we start talking about a particular thing, and especially if there are visuals, so we had the Altroz visuals some time ago, so there are lots of Altroz questions that I've missed. I will take
Oh,
one that is a question I had planned to ask you anyway. Tata is missing from many segments, but one particular segment which we've talked about in the past, and by we I mean me and the management and you yourself and I have had this conversation, is the whole compact sedan space where you haven't
hmm,
had a premium product for a while. Never
yeah.
mind the Prima concept, was it, or the Prima concept long ago. And, then of course you showed a concept last year at Geneva, which we'll talk about in a second. But the question, let me not drone on. Deepak has asked this question: Can we expect an Altroz sedan anytime soon?
Wow. So, see, when you say compact sedan, I'm thinking of a sub 4 meter. Is that what you
No, that
mean?
would be subcompact in my parlance. So I
Okay.
mean, so that would be the Tigor anyway. For
Yeah.
me, it's the one that sits above that.
The one which sits above. Yeah, yeah. So, of course, we look at a lot of segments. We look at also their movement. Are there some structural movements? And see, globally, this doesn't answer the question, of course, but globally, if I can say, the sedan, huge part of the sedan market has actually moved into SUVs. And
Yeah.
this is true in India. Right from the subcompact SUVs all the way to the full sizers. The SUV is really where aspiration lies. That's really where people have moved. So we as a company always look at segments in what is their structural movement? Are they growing? Are they reducing? And B, can we bring something new and exciting? So I don't think it's a question of playing in every segment because then you're
Sure.
spreading yourself too thin. It's better to choose a few segments where you can have a strong growth and you can bring a great product.
I accept your
And if
logic
you see,
about the space in general. I do. I mean, I can see that the fastest growing
yeah,
segments even in our market here are of course all SUV segments, and
yeah,
that compact sedan space hasn't really grown, but it's still a substantial volume. You look at cars like the City and the Ciaz.
yes.
It's still a very large and popular segment. Are you ruling that out then for the Altros, or is that something that's maybe on the cards?
No, of course, I'm not ruling
Or
it
that
out.
family, not the
Like
Altros. It
I
won't
said,
be called that.
we keep looking at segments. Some of the examples you took, but I'd just like to point out, some of these examples are actually present in more markets than India.
Yeah.
So even if the Indian market is small, the overall market for that particular manufacturer might make sense.
Yeah.
Currently we are obviously India based. That's where our center of gravity is in terms of the market. So we see other areas which are growing faster, and we choose to invest time, money, effort. See, every company can do a finite number of things. And, so where we have, it's like running a house. When you choose something, there's many things you want to buy, but you choose to put your money on something which will make the most difference to you. So it's the same thing in a car company as well.
So speaking of which, let's quickly talk about the H2X turned HBX.
Yeah,
And you saw the excitement at the expo, even at
yeah.
Geneva when you first showed it as the H2X last year. Uh, Extremely, extremely appealing design, and we've all sort of raved about it. Uh, what is your sense on that segment? Because in many ways, yes, there is another product there which has a similar claim,
Yeah.
mini SUV or whatever you want to call it. But do you think that that's where you could do something potentially with that car when it comes to market that will be, like you said, bringing something completely new to the segment, really exciting the marketplace?
Yeah, going back to why we do concept cars, this was one reason. When we created this car, we really, H2X got incredible,
Oh
response at
yeah.
the last expo. And then, when we showed the HBX again, the response was phenomenal for a car which is 3.8 meters long. So it's a tiny car by any standards, but the kind of response it generated, it really sort of reinforces the fact that you're doing the right thing as a company. You have made those right choices. Sorry.
It's bloody good looking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And again, the architecture is great. The wheels are in the right place. We've worked very hard to do that. And again, when it does come, I think it'll create the kind of buzz that the Nexon, Altroz, and the Harrier have been able to create in their own segments. It's a striking car to see on the road. It is also a little more, even in that size, Sid, it is much more authentic. It's not a pretend SUV. This is not a hatchback which has got some steroids and some cladding. This is really, built tough like that. And we have shown a little rhinoceros, which is a born tough. The HBX for us is really very authentic. It may not be 4x4 because that customer doesn't go 4x4. But in terms of toughness, ruggedness, bad roads, it'll handle that with ease, actually.
Okay, we are seeing visuals on the screen right now of that car, and before anything else, you've delivered on the promise on the Harrier, and you've said already on camera to me before that here's another car you will deliver which will look just like that. So now you're not so concerned that you can deliver that, given the experience of the Altroz and the Harrier behind you.
Yeah, it's the same team, Sid, as you know, the design team. And again, we have a lot of experience now in the team to deliver those kind of products. The conversations that we need to have with engineering, marketing, other parts of the company, and it's this real nice collective effort to deliver this product. There's a lot more than design and designers involved in bringing a product to market,
Sure.
and I mentioned some of them. The manufacturing team, the stampability. We really wanted some nice wide wheel arches, Again, to get the depth of draw in a piece of steel, you have to have a lot of conversation, So this is not easy. And still maintain the sharpness of the creases that you see on the body. Because otherwise it's exactly people like you and the customer who look at the final car and say, God, that looks like a lump of soap, if it's not tight and crisp. So I give a lot of credit to our manufacturing guys as well.
But tell me, come to this point now, and it's like the elephant in the room when you're talking about the Harrier. There have been certain issues with the car, and a lot of that has got, I think, covered quite well. There's lots of people asking questions about some of the shortcomings and some of the issues that did come up with the previous pre-facelift model, if I want to call it that, or the original launched model.
Yeah.
How much of that learning do you then take back? And this is again not just based on what obviously the engineering guys would do as a matter of course, but now that you're
Yeah.
also exposed to a lot more of it, social media, you pick up so much from actual customers. A lot of them are asking questions today. How do you address that whole point about being able to firstly go back and fix some of that, but also make sure that it doesn't creep into the newer products that are coming?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the big ones was the sunroof.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, the boom of sunroofs that India has seen, and I still
Inexplicably.
really can't understand why.
Yeah.
But sunroof is, for example, one of the things which we've introduced in the 2020. But going forward, now, I doubt we'll ever do a car without a sunroof, you know. So those are some of the learnings. And I think, every company has this feedback loop. And I think, with social media, the feedback loop is much more immediate. It's much more, it's much more granular. It's much more focused. Earlier, 5 or 7 years ago, someone would write a letter which
Yeah.
would go to the MD or whatever.
Mr.
Today
Tata
on
even.
social media, someone can point out, look, you're missing a sunroof,
Yeah.
and then 100 people write about it. It really makes us notice. So we take this sort of feedback, of course, very, very seriously, and we bring it into to every model year change, which is a continuous development process. But yeah, going forward in new products, like I said, I don't think some of these features we would not have, so that's important. Yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
stuff like, I know that there were some people who had issues with NVH, for example. There was some talk about the infotainment system. How much of that have you actually been able to address in the 2020 Harrier?
Yeah, like I said, Sid, we all our launches, we launched in January this entire range, and then we got hit very hard
So
by
people haven't
this
seen it.
current lockdown. So a lot of people have not experienced the 5 or 6 new products we've launched. So all I would say to all the people listening and watching is that as soon as this lockdown opens, please go and experience these new products for yourself. And because very few journalists even have had a chance to really look at these products, compare
I'm
them.
one of them.
You said
Yeah.
so yourself. Yeah, you're one of them. And so there's not enough information out there because we literally didn't get the time for people to experience it.
Okay, and that's fair. I mean, so for all of you who are bringing up all the issues that you may have seen on the previous Harrier, the good news is that some of that has been addressed, and we'll of course wait to see the car before we can pass any judgment on how well it has been addressed. So, guys, be
Yes,
patient on
please.
that. And then,
Yeah.
we have to, of course, talk about the other big thing that happened, which is your first EV, which came out as well recently, just before the expo, and then at the expo, it was again one of the big showcase models. But before we go there, since we're talking about concepts and design studies, and before I go to the EV concept from 2018, or 2019 Geneva show, let me
Yeah.
first and foremost talk about the car that won you yet another CNB Auto Expo award for design, which is the Sierra concept. So much emotion, so much nostalgia linked to that car. The fact that you could have called it something else. You could have called it HCX, but the fact that you chose to go there, I don't remember how many years it's been. I wanted you to call the Harrier Sierra, if you remember. I
Yeah.
even went and had that hashtag, tried really hard to get it out there on social media. So,
Yep. Yep.
given that baggage, the fact that that brings its own pressure, and then, all of this positive emotion and nostalgia, what compelled you to call it Sierra, and when did you decide that it has to be the Sierra at the design stage?
So a couple of things, we spoke about social media. So a lot of people, and including yourself, a lot of people said, bring back the Sierra, bring back the Sierra. Where's the next gen Sierra? And to be very honest with you, we weren't really thinking about it, because we were doing other things, as you know, Harrier, Altroz, all of that. And but this real groundswell of bring the Sierra back was huge, too strong for us to let's say to ignore. The other thing is, we are a 22-year-old car company. We may be a older automotive company and locomotive company. We don't have the kind of history that all the cars sitting behind you. They all come from at least 100 years of car making. So they've got a huge history of names, of products, of brands, of nameplates. And then we said, look, Sierra is one of those strong nameplates that we have. It's in our short but important history as a car maker. So, what would that Sierra look like if it was designed today for this day and age? And there was no other way that could have gone. It had to be electric. It had to have the visual strength of the original one. And of course, the daylight opening on the side, which is so iconic. It's its signature, mark, or the signature design element. The wraparound rear glass, or side rear glass. So we kept some of these things in mind, but we didn't want to be a slave to the original Sierra, because that was a slave to nothing else. So when you revive, or when you continue, or you bring in a name in a new avatar, it's very important not to go into that retro trap. And you said that just now. The line is very fine. That you can go very wrong, or you can get it right. And in our case, we carried that spirit of the original Sierra, which was pioneering. I mean, they did stuff that
Let
very few
me.
people have the guts to do even now.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. And which is probably why it stays in people's minds. Let me quickly sort
yeah,
of jump in there because
yeah,
people asking so many related questions. Lots of people saying just launch this car now. That's one. But there's a question from Supreet which says, is there a chance of an SUV below the Harrier and above the Nexon? I am reading that to mean the Sierra. So,
yeah, yeah,
what is your take on that
yeah, yeah.
statement?
No, Sid, if you remember, the original Sierra is actually longer than the one we showed. And we chose this particular segment, which because it's for smack bang in the middle of the 4 meter Nexon and the 4.6 meter, Harrier. So it's in the middle. It's 4.3, 4.4 meters. So it's a really good size. And for me, yeah, that's why we chose the size, because there is a space there.
And so tell me this, how difficult is it to then, and not necessarily just from a design perspective, because that part is still easy to understand. But as a company then, how difficult is it to say that, okay, yes, SUVs are hot, but therefore we must look at each sort of niche where we can bring in a product and yet make it such that in itself, it can get the volume, it can do the business. So you've got the HPX, you've got the Nexon, then you've got the Sierra, and then you've got the Harrier, and then you've got the Gravitas, and somewhere in the middle of all that is the Hexa. How are you then looking at making sure that each one gets its own space?
Yeah, and you've literally listed them. You remember a few years ago when you and I met, I said that we would love to have a SUV in every
Yeah,
size and every
yeah.
price, and these plays are actually towards that. Having said that, of course, Sierra is still very much a concept. Like I told you, we weren't even looking at it as a product. Now it's obviously under some consideration because of the kind of response it generated. But it was very very much a concept car. That's the second reason why you do a concept car, is you bring something out there you really want to test, because a name like that, you can't go wrong. It's like the Defender, that they just launched. GLR just launched a few months back. When you come back with a name that's so strong, you
You can't
don't
mess it
get a
up.
chance to get it wrong.
Yeah, you can't mess it up. So there's a related question which is not specific to this, but I see it now, so I should ask you. Why no connected cars yet? So yes, I know it's a bit of a trend. We're starting to see a lot of cars which have this internet inside, or the eSIM related services. Yes, you have a lot of connectivity in your cars right now, but
Yes,
is that something that you're
yes.
considering?
Yeah, yeah, of course. I mean, we have to keep in step with the technology. Of course, IT and connected technology, see, it moves much faster than any product program. And but if you see what we do have, I mean, for example, we brought the navigation system called What Three Words into India. It's on the Nexon. It describes a 3 by 3 meter square of space anywhere in the world with 3 words. So, there's nothing like that in India at all, and very few car companies globally. So it's not about, again, not about just throwing tech for the sake of it. The technology has got to do something for you. It's really got to work to make your life a little better, easier, convenient, whatever it is. So we choose our technologies carefully, and we'll continue doing that. But rest assured, I mean, we don't want to be left behind, but we won't do a blind running behind technology.
Okay,
The
that's great.
largest screen and the largest this and the largest that. There has to be a trade-off between what makes sense and following it blindly.
Okay, now as I can see, we have already gone way ahead of the time I had thought we would be at this time. So hang in there with me because one of the things I have to do is, of course, talk about the contest that we have for all
Oh,
of our viewers. So a quick
okay.
reminder then for those who don't know about it, here's what our contest is all about.
Log on to karanbike.com/freewheeling and answer a simple question. 3 lucky winners win a 2-night 3-day stay at any domestic Club Mahindra resort. Not just that, at the end of the month, all correct entries are eligible for the grand prize of an all-expense paid 3-night 4-day trip to Dubai or Singapore. So, keep freewheeling. Terms and conditions apply.
Okay, so that is our contest, and for those of you who saw that, I do have the first question coming up. But remember that all you have to do is to go on to karanbike.com/freewheeling, and well, that's about it. And you can win those prizes as you saw there. So let me pull up those questions for you. And in the meanwhile, remember that it's all going to be related today to Tata Motors, no doubt. I mean, there's kind of obvious, I suppose. So let me find those questions for you now. That's what happens when you have them on your phone and you can't seem to find them. But considering I'm the one who wrote them down, I should remember them. But Pratap, the good thing about doing this kind of thing live is that sometimes you get some nice live bloopers as well. But all right, I've got the questions now. So the
You
first
can
question,
fix it in the edit.
there is no edit, yeah. The
Exactly.
first question then, the Tata Altroz is based on what concept car? Your three options are the Tata H4X, sorry, the Tata 45X, or the Tata Elegante or Elegant. I don't know how that was pronounced, that concept name. So the question again, the Tata Altroz is based on what concept car? The Tata H4X, the Tata 45X, or the Tata Elegante, and that's where you go. And
By
put
the
in
way,
your
am I
details.
allowed to answer this question?
I don't think there's any prizes for guessing what the answer to your question is. I
So
don't
I
think
can't
so.
answer this question and win that holiday.
I think you'd have an inherent advantage, don't you?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree.
Okay, that was a fairly easy one though. In any case, so I'm not too worried about people getting that one or not getting that one. Um, okay, having said that, there are a couple more questions coming, so guys, watch out for that. Pratap, you know, I simply cannot talk about the Sierra and then not talk about the Safari. So many people want that to come back. Now, you did show a little hint of that when you called the Hexa Safari concept that, but
Edition, yeah.
or the edition, not the concept, but the nameplate. It has a legion of followers. There's still a lot of people who would love to see another Tata Safari. Do you close the door on that?
No, of course not. I think like I said, we wherever we play in whatever segment we play, we really want to be a strong player. We want that segment to grow. See, a car program is a very, very capital intensive project. Running 4 or 5 years, thousands of people involved, many, many hundreds of crores of rupees. So we have to consider all our decisions very carefully. And like I said, it's like running your own house. You sometimes prioritize things accordingly, and our priorities are currently in the high growth volume areas that we see, because we want to have a sustainable business. um, so yes, there are many things we can and should do perhaps, but it just needs a certain time that we have to dedicate to those things.
But
So we have a fine capacity like everyone else. So that's
sure,
the real reason.
sure.
But none of these projects are dead. These nameplates are very important to us. They are why we are here today, by the way. Uh, so
Yeah, respect.
yeah.
So, since we can at least operate in the realm of conjecture and have some fun with that, uh, can I please have your permission to throw a little bit of a challenge your way, and then we'll get everybody else involved. I promised everybody a surprise, and I was about to lose track of that. So let me throw this at you.
Challenge my way.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, of course,
Okay.
your way. And
Okay.
everybody else can get involved later. I'll explain. So what I'm looking for is basically, I'm gonna define a few sort of parameters, and
Okay.
I want you to just sort of sketch that out for us now. So three
Sketch it out.
different, yeah, sketch it out like just a basic, however you think you want to express
Can
that
I
on
just grab
paper.
some paper?
But here the challenge first, so you can start thinking of what
Yeah.
it is. So three different sketches or three different designs, uh,
Okay.
but the parameters remain the same. All three have to be three different body styles, but
Okay.
all have to be sub 10 lakh rupees in terms of what you would look at as a target segment. All have to be potentially able to take on electrification in terms of hybrid or fully electric powertrains. Um,
Okay.
yeah, okay. I won't put in more constraints for you. So those are the two things: sub 10 lakhs, three body styles, and then of course, like I said, potentially can be electrified.
Okay.
Are you okay with doing this? And then you know what? We'll ask people to vote on which one they like the best.
Oh, okay. So I'll just grab some paper then. Give me half a second. I've
Do
got
that.
my
I'm going to
desk.
ask the second question in the meanwhile.
Okay. Okay.
All right, guys. So Pratap's going to go and get the paper, and then we're going to have some fun, hopefully. And that was the surprise I had promised you guys. For those of you who saw my tweet, the second question for you is: in 2014, Tata Motors opened its first design studio outside India. Where was it? Germany, USA, UK. In 2014, Tata Motors opened its design studio outside India. Where was it? Germany, USA, or the UK? So those are three choices. And once again, the little caption on your screens there, carandbike.com/freewheeling. Please go and answer that question. It's a very simple one again. And Pratap is back. So let me quickly bring him back in. Okay, so you've started doing it, I can see already. So, while you're doing that, let me also pick your brains on, the thing that I always, people always ask me what's the stuff you enjoy the most in your job. I actually love
Yeah.
looking at the compacts because that's where the maximum constraint is. To see what gets developed and then produced, you know that it's coming from a place of a lot of hard work. I mean, it's easier to do it with a more expensive product. Easier is the wrong word, but you get my point. From
Yes.
design as well, do you think that's true? That the biggest constraints are at the lower end of the price point?
I think there's Sid, with my own experience, I've been able to work in quite a few different types of companies with different types of products. Every segment actually has its you know costing and price constraints. I mean, just because a Bentley or a Rolls Royce costs upward of a crore doesn't mean that the designers have a free hand completely. So they just operated at a different envelope size. But the challenge is, of course, that when you bring a product at the entry level, let's say something like a mid hatch like a Tiago, but the expectations that the customer has in terms of features, in terms of fit, finish, quality, design is of a higher order, and
Sure.
it should be. To then try and match that is of course a challenge, but it's a good challenge to have. I think designers are most creative when they're actually tasked with some challenges,
Okay.
and we've loved doing those cars.
Okay, fair enough. By the way, Sujoy is saying, can we also do this challenge? So yes, please knock yourself out. Go ahead. I would love to see some of your sketches too, and you can maybe, if you can, quickly take pictures and maybe tweet them to me. That's one way for me to share them with Pratap and all of the rest of the people who are watching. So knock yourself out. Put on your creative caps and pick up your pencils or pens and go for it. Pratap's busy at work there as well, and so you know what? To be fair, let me just go ahead and ask the third question of our contest while he's doing that because you can see he's taken it really seriously. So the third question is that the Tata Sierra concept that we just talked about, that was shown at the 2020 Auto Expo, is it a hybrid, B, an EV, or C, a biofuel vehicle? So your question is: the Tata Sierra concept shown at the 2020 Auto Expo is option 1, a hybrid; option 2, an EV; option 3, a biofuel vehicle. And again, remember, the place to go and answer that is carandbike.com/freewheeling. Very simple. And you have to just input your details and, of course, answer the question. And remember that for many of you who may be wondering how we are giving away holidays as prizes, well, of course, you avail all of that only when it's safe to travel. And so we won't put some stipulation on you that you have to do it within a certain time frame because, of course, we understand that things right now don't allow you to travel. So maybe once it all opens up, this could be the best gift that you can give yourself because, I'm sure you'll all be itching to get out and a free holiday is certainly going to be something that will get your juices flowing. So enter that contest. And, again, so one done, is it, Pratap?
Yeah, I've done a couple.
Oh, two done.
So
That's fast. That's really fast.
yeah,
Well,
I'm being a little futuristic, so people will have to excuse me
I'm
for
excited by
taking a little bit of liberty.
that.
Is that okay?
Very much okay. And by the way, while you're doing that, I can tell you that I can see a lot of feedback coming in for Pratap saying that, a lot of transformation has happened at the company, and people are asking that, firstly complimenting you on that, and then also saying that maybe you should write a book about it. So, maybe we can write a book
Wow.
about it together someday.
Yeah.
The other
I think
feedback that I'm getting from a lot of you is that we're not very audible to you. So I've tried to tweak the sound levels now. So please tell me again if you guys can hear me. Then please let me see some thumbs up there from you, because I'm worried if you can't hear us in any case. And okay, Abhishek asked a question about why does Tata Motors take a long time to develop and deliver a new product? Too many years into development, and then you lose the first mover advantage, whereas competitors do it sooner, for example, Hyundai. Do you accept that? Because we all know that development does take a long time.
Yeah, I mean, if you see our development time, Sid, it's as good as any other company in the world. In fact, we are doing all new products now within 4 years. We are anywhere between 36 months and 40 months. Which is a huge.
That's
It's
faster than many
we've had to
others.
re-engineer the company to actually do
Yeah.
that.
And it's faster than many others, actually.
Sorry.
It's actually faster than many others.
Yeah, it is. So I think in terms of development time, we are no different from any company globally. Our new processes are all geared towards that, and like I'm saying, it's taken a lot of re-engineering within the company. We used to be 60, 72 months earlier. We brought that down to 36, 40 months. So the way of working, the tools we use, all of that have helped. Of course, the architecture concept. This is one thing that we perhaps, in comparison to the other global OEMs, we didn't have this sort of architecture concept, and now we've got Alpha and Omega, and that really helps us to do top hats and variants much faster. So as you see more products coming off those two architectures, you'll see that the speed looks also perceptibly faster. Earlier we had almost like a platform for each product, whereas now we have an architecture which is scalable, which is flexible, and we can therefore do top hats much faster than we could earlier. So again, watch out for the new stuff that's coming.
Okay, fair enough. While Pratap finishes or puts finishing touches then on those sketches, I'm going to play out another video for you guys, and then we'll talk about that with him as well. Because for me, this was one of those times when a lot of things, it wasn't just the direction change, but it was also a sort of a complete mission change that we started to see at Tata. Something that had started with perhaps the Tiago, you could argue, but this particular car in many ways defined that yet in much more concrete fashion. Take a look. All right, so Pratap, the sedan concept that was shown at the 2018 Geneva Motor Show, if I remember correctly, the E-Vision.
Yes.
It pointed to a new design language of sorts, though it was a continuation of your already revealed design language, and then, of course, electrification. Why was that car important to Tata? Because we saw we saw Chandra and we saw Mr. Tata and yourself and everybody else going to, flanking the car there, and you can tell that that was a really important moment for the company.
So, that was yes, it's a turning point for us. We were already planning an electric, car division or an electric, business unit, which you saw happening, subsequently. And we felt that we didn't have a design language actually for EVs at all. And I think EVs deserve a design language, or at least some treatments of their own, which distinguish them from the regular ICE engine, or the ICE cars. So the Vision Sedan was actually, for us to imagine what elements would go into any EV that we did. And you would have noticed that, the Nexon, or the color that we brought to Vision Sedan, this beautiful teal, which is not green, not blue. I mean, our color designers came up with a stunning color. We said that we don't want an EV to be white, because an EV is not a refrigerator. There's an overwhelming number of white color EVs. I don't know why. Just because you want an EV, you don't have preference of color. That didn't sort of compute in my head. So the designers came up with this beautiful peacock-inspired, blue, green, teal. But we did it on the show car, and then everyone liked it. And then suddenly, we were like, okay, Nexon has to have this same color. And so the production design team really worked hard with our suppliers to get that color into production. And again, the Nexon EV carries that color as a signature color. Electric blue accents. The interior has this light, leather seats. So a lot of design treatment, I would say, from the Vision Sedan has actually come into the Nexon EV. And of course, Altroz we've shown as a concept as well, even in Delhi. Beautiful elements from their original vision.
So we're seeing actually the Nexon EV in that color on our screens right now, and so I can see what you mean about bringing exactly that to life.
Yes, and there's a lot of hard work and technology gone behind that to achieve this color. Again, we were the highest selling EV in March, notwithstanding that we lost time because of the lockdown. But still, I think we sold close to 200 EVs, Nexon EVs. That's really encouraging. Again, I'm looking forward to this opening of the lockdown, because people can really see and experience our new cars.
A lot of people are
like leaving the movie halfway,
Yeah, it is. And by the way, I must say a lot of people are very amused by your refrigerator comment. We're getting a lot of people talking about that. And for all of you who are going on telling me about the Harrier 2019, I know I've missed a lot of your questions at the top. We did talk about some of that. I don't know if you've missed that too. But I have to try and obviously fit in all these various topics. And so, yes, I think there was an admission that there were issues which have been addressed. And the 2020 version of the car now does not have most of that. So, I think you need to be patient and wait and see what that looks like. Having said that, there are questions also. Again, I missed who that was from, but I saw some time ago a question about what kind of design schools people should go to if they want to pursue a career in automotive design. Are government schools also good for this? Should they necessarily be only going abroad?
No, I mean, government schools. I myself went to a government, institute, National Institute of Design in Ahmedabad. There's IIT, who has a course as well. And then, of course, there's the privates. There's MIT, there's DY Patil. So there are some good colleges out there. But yeah, do it only if you're really, really serious about the career, because it's a very, very competitive career.
Yeah.
Very few will actually get into a car design studio. I, in fact, feel there are far too many designers coming out of design colleges and not enough jobs. So this is an area, if you want to get into, you have to do it. You have to be ready to work really, really hard. You have to really love doing it. Don't do it because you see someone is successful at it. That shouldn't be your sort of driving force. But yes, there are some very good colleges in India. And then I would recommend to do a master's abroad, because we don't have, maybe that level of master's education in car design in India. You can go to Coventry University. You can go to Royal College of Art, where I myself went. You can go to Art Center, CCS in Detroit. So there are some very, very good global colleges, but I would say get a strong background or a bachelor's education in product design or in fact car design if you can in India.
All right, Sanket has sent in a sketch. Now, I don't know how much of this is visible to you.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's from
Wow.
Sanket, who
Sanket
has done
is,
this right now and tweeted it to me.
God damn, that's
So, good job,
really
Sanket.
good.
That's really nice.
So
And
then, so this is the point where I should quietly go away. So, like I said, I wanted to be a little futuristic, because the future is sort of what drives us, and I hope people can see.
okay, hold on. Let me
That's
put you
my
full frame. Let me
sort
get you
of
on full
E
frame.
hatch. So,
Wow.
like I said, I've kept it very futuristic. Sid, you obviously gave a sort of cost constraint. This
Yes.
means a car which will most probably be actually under 4 meters. I see a very nice electric urban cruiser as one segment. Urban car,
Yeah.
small urban car. There could be a space for that. Very futuristic, advanced looking. Of course, it won't look like this. My design team will probably be laughing now. Then I would say, there is a space for a very aerodynamic sort of, sedan which slips through the air. The electric architecture, as you pointed out to me, allows us to have a little more cab forward design of that. But again, it can be quite sort of smooth and sleek through the air
Are those
because
suicide
it's an
doors?
EV.
Are those suicide doors?
Yes.
Yeah, very cool.
And the last is, of course, what I see as a very simple but rugged electric SUV. Again, for the cost point that you mentioned, it can be very, very sort of square in its appearance, in its silhouette. A very nice large glass. There are many, many people who like this sort of how can I say, basic shapes for cars even now. And, we could see a return to this sort of simplicity. I think we have a lot of complication in car design currently, globally. There's a lot of, surface entertainment.
Right.
But this one is, sort of back to the basics. It's a very, very accessible, large, gives you lots of, visibility, very low belt line. So it's just some of these things I thought in the 5 or 7 minutes that you gave me. You're harder than my CEO, Sid.
That is saying something because I met your CEO.
Yeah.
So,
At least he gives me a little more time than you.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, guys, now you've seen those 3 sketches. In fact, Pratap, if you could just hold them up one by one again. Start
Yeah.
with the hatch, the E
So
hatch.
this is let's say the urban electric hatch. Very
All right.
funky.
Urban electric hatch, got it. Let me
Yeah.
put that down.
This would be, let's say, the return of a sedan, but in an electric format.
And you said slips through the air. I like that.
Yeah, very aerodynamic. So you can see the silhouette is actually quite swoopy.
Yeah.
The rear wheel would also be covered, because that doesn't steer. So of course you can cover the rear wheel for aero. And the last one would be a return to a very simple, iconic mobility.
Yeah.
Doesn't be too complicated. It's EV because that's what you said. So all these cars sit therefore a little taller, a little higher, because I would imagine that the EV battery pack would be on the floor. But yeah, that sort of works for the kind of product as well.
All right.
So
So a lot
these
of
would,
people complimenting
these would
you.
be in that sub 4 meter, I would imagine.
All right. So guys, which one do you like best of those 3? You've got to quickly start telling me right now. Put in your comments and say which one you like best of these 3. That was the challenge, and he was up for it. You can see how quickly he has managed to put that down on paper, and I would love to know what you all think. And
Whoops.
Okay, yeah, got it. So we've
Okay,
got the urban electric hatch, the aerodynamic electric sedan, or the urban electric SUV. So please
correct.
tell us which one you like best. And I'm seeing a lot of people saying great sketches, and the SUV is great. Urban electric SUV. Okay, two more votes. There's somebody who said urban electric hatch, and then we've got third one, third. Okay,
So a
so
lot of people
obviously it's the
like
SUV.
the simple SUV.
Now again, hatch, slippery sedan. Okay, number three. Nicely done. I like the SUV.
That seems to be
Uh,
winning then.
yeah, SUV. Everyone likes number three. Third one, yes. I think that's pretty unanimous, Pratap.
Wow. See
What
what
a
I told
shock!
you. See,
What a shock and
see
what
what
a
I told you
surprise.
about SUVs versus sedans.
Yeah. So, are you heartened to to see this response?
Yeah, I am. I mean, it just shows, see, the SUVs really, rule the roost.
Uh,
There's very little one can
I have
say.
to tell you, there are thankfully a few people who think like me because my choice was the hatch. I thought it was just
Ah, yeah.
wild. It was just so different, and I loved it. And so thankfully, yeah, there are a couple of people. Well, now I see a few people saying the first one, the urban EV, but the
By
majority
the way,
says SUV.
I'd like to give these away as well. I'll
Wow,
send them to you, or we can,
you can give them away just to
it
me.
would be nice to give it away if someone wants it.
That's me. I want them. I'll happily just
Sure.
hoard them. No, but are you suggesting yet another sort of chance for somebody to get a sketch done by you? Is that what you're saying? Because you can go ahead and ask them and throw a challenge to them.
Yeah, okay. I'm up for that. So, um, okay, everyone knows we have two architectures, Alpha and Omega. I would like you to write to Sid, to say which are the first two cars on Alpha and which are the first two cars on Omega. And if you can get those right, then I can send you a sketch of any of the cars that you would like me to draw for you from our current range. Of course, I can't send you any sketches of what's the fourth car on Alpha or the third car on
You can
Alpha,
send
but
that just to me.
anything
You can send that one just to me.
anything that sorry.
You can send that one just to me. The fourth car.
So yeah, please go ahead and name in that order the first two cars on Alpha, the first two cars on Omega, and tell me which car you would like me from our current range, to draw for you, and I'll send you an original sketch.
Signed by Pratap. That's exciting stuff, guys. And this was totally, off the cuff. And so thank you, Pratap, for doing that. It's very sporting of you. And,
No problem.
please go ahead and answer on Twitter. Please tag Pratap, tag me as well. And if
Sure.
if you don't tag him, I'm definitely going to bring him into that conversation.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I got another sketch which I want to quickly show you. Anant has sent this. Yeah, I think it's kind of visible now. Three different cars.
Oh wow.
So you got what looks like, I'm assuming, a cabriolet SUV kind of concept, a hatch,
Really good.
and wow, third one's again an SUV.
Yeah, so you can see the kind of talent, Sid. The second one looks like a coupe SUV.
Yeah.
So again, you can see the kind
Very
of
nice.
talent there is in the country. I would just say to any of these guys, and girls, please, if you really want your talent and your interest to become a profession, you must study for it. Please do that. And education is fundamental. I cannot tell you the number of people who will send me drawings of cars.
Yeah.
But in many cases, they are drawings of cars that exist. So someone's drawn a car from a photograph. So just because you can do that doesn't mean you can design a car from scratch. So I would really, recommend an education if you can do it.
Okay, so a lot of people are already answering that question here. So those are names that I'm just seeing right now off the top of my head here: Ashwik, Karan, Amit, Kaushik, Ankur, Abhishek. Please go ahead and tweet the answer to us and tag Pratap so that you have a fair shot at winning this. Because I would lose track of who said what here, and that wouldn't be fair to any of you. So please to
Yeah, it's
me
better
and
to put it
Pratap,
on Twitter. Yeah,
and that
yeah.
way we definitely know that you sent it in. And thank you so much for so many of you are responding to this another impromptu sort of contest. Now we've gone over an hour, by the way, and I can't believe it. This is the longest one we've done so far, but I simply cannot let you go until I introduce a very interesting thing to all of our viewers. So this is, before I can even ask what have you been up to during the lockdown, I think it's only fair to play something for all our viewers and let them judge from it. All right. So what was that all about? You got to share this now with the rest of the world. I know some of it you've
So
been
see,
doing on Twitter. Some of it you've been doing on Twitter. But for those who are not on Twitter,
yeah.
please tell us what this is all about.
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved building model kits, and I think the last one I built was, when I was probably in school. The last model kit. Of course, in design college, we designed and made our own models. But a kit I probably did, many years ago, probably 30 years ago. Now, I've also got this passion for aircraft, World War II aircraft. So I keep buying kits. I keep buying kits online, and the boxes end up, in a pile at home, making my wife really very angry. But with this lockdown situation, it was really a way to get back into it. So I use, a day or two in the weekend, of course, only to try and create these models. It takes my mind off work. It takes my mind off what's going on around us currently. It's a great escape, and I've chosen a scale. I do 1/72 because I can finish that in a day or day and some hours the next day max. I'm not a geek or whatever, but I'm a kitchen table modeler. Again, makes my wife very angry, but it's a real great escape to be able to get back into this. And if there's anything positive you can take out of the whole situation we are, it's helped me rediscover this passion and hobby that I've had. So yeah, that's what it's about really.
So I actually have a picture coming up right now on the screen of six of them, and then we also showed pictures while you were speaking about of each one individually. So you got the two Messerschmitts, you got uh, the Wildcat, the Mitsubishi. What's your favorite of this lot?
My favorite is the Focke-Wulf 190. Of course, the Spitfire is a great plane. I don't have it in this collection. It's in my office, the little Spitfire. But I think the Focke-Wulf 190 is a stunning aircraft. It's just so beautiful to look at. And of course, see, when you're making these models, you actually notice, because you're holding it in your hands, you notice all these things very, in close distance. The transitions, the forms, why a plane looks like the way it does. The form function balance. So there's a lot going on when you do these models. So anyone who wants to do it, please take it up. It's a great hobby.
Well, I can see that you have a whole lot of them that you haven't yet gotten to because I've even got a picture here that you sent me of the unopened boxes. So yeah, they can see that now on their screens. So how do you expect to be able to get those done before the
So of
lockdown
course,
lifts?
I really want us to get back to normal. So we've got another 3 weeks extension here, at least in the UK. That means 3 more weekends, so I can probably make 3 more planes.
So I've also got now a picture coming up that there's you at your workstation or your desk at home, and
Yeah.
there's a huge pot of coffee. So is that what gets you through the workday?
Coffee is fuel, absolutely. And also, again, it's a moment you take to make your own coffee. You've got the time to do it, and it's a nice thing to use the espresso cafetiere. Again, you've got this ground up coffee that you bring from Italy and all that, and never get a chance to use it because we're always using instant coffee. So again, this kind of slowing down is helpful. It just makes you appreciate a few things that you gloss past, in your normal day.
All right, so lots of great comments coming in for the planes, and we need more discussion, please, says Ankur. So, on the planes specifically, if any of you have any questions, please ask. But meanwhile, there's another picture that you shared, which is now my favorite, which is of course the cheese board and the glasses of wine, and that really looks like at the end of a long day you could use one of those cheese boards, with grapes and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those new things we're doing, we because we can't meet friends. We're doing a lot of FaceTime aperitivos or meals or whatever it is.
Yeah, so
it's one of those.
Bharat is saying that you very often showcase these on Insta, and the planes, I'm guessing, is what he means.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But all right, I'm seeing some more. Again, I've lost track of some of the questions I think here, but. We have to, I think, maybe start to wind this up now. So,
cool.
Who came up with the idea of the bird names for the cars? That's actually, even I want to know the answer to that. That's a question that just.
That's a very good question. A few years ago, the gentleman who's now the president of the commercial vehicle business unit, Girish Wag. A lot of you all would have heard of him from his days, with the Nano project and the original ACE. So Girish used to run a department within the passenger car business, before he moved to commercial vehicles, called product planning and sort of, let's say, program management. It was called Triple PM, product planning and program management. And he did this. By the way, he was given that job by the late Carl Slim Sid. Carl Slim had created this triple PM function, and we always saw that whatever project somehow we were working on inside the company became known to everyone outside, and Girish came with this great idea to call it something that even inside the company people wouldn't know. So he called all the products. Yeah, so all the products were birds of prey. So peregrine and falcon and whatever, and hornbill. So yeah, it's Girish's brainchild actually to call them these bird names. And believe me, it works because even I get confused.
Are you confirming hornbill to us? Was that a little hint?
No, I mean hornbill. That's why HBX was called HBX. I said it at the expo. There's a reason why we used HB. It's one of those internal names and they work for us. Like I said, it's sometimes so confusing when I can't remember which one's which. So it works as a decoy.
So Sujoy, who was the first one to ask if they can also start sketching, has sent his sketch, and so it's only fair for me to hang on, let me go full frame on this so that everybody can see it. And there, 3 cars.
Oh wow!
Oh, come on now.
Great.
Did you catch a glimpse of that before it went dark?
Yeah, I got a little glimpse. Yeah. There are people sitting, facing each other. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So again, a lot of talent out there. Fantastic.
Thank you, Sujoy.
To do this in such a short time.
Yes, and speaking of which, time, I've got to really wrap this up now. I know there were many other things that I'd like to have talked with you about, and what I also have to do is ask the third question in that contest of ours, because we've got to get into Pratap's own little mini contest that he has done for you right now. A lot of people have already started tweeting in answers to that, so I will ask Pratap to repeat his question at the end, but very quickly, question 3 from the original contest then is, the Tata Sierra concept shown. Oh, I realize I've asked this question already. The Tata Sierra concept shown at the 2020 Auto Expo is A, a hybrid, B, an EV, and C, a biofuel vehicle. So, so much for my bird brain, where I missed that I'd already asked this question. And so, all right, finally, I'm going to request you, Pratap, to ask your question again, the challenge that you threw to everybody.
So the question again, as you know, and we've talked about it, we have 2 architectures within Tata Motors. what are the first two cars on each of those architectures? Please let us know. What's the first two cars on Alpha? What are the first two cars on Omega? So that's 4 cars in total you have to name. And then, if you have the right answer, also name the car from the current range that we have that you would like me to draw for you and send you as an original.
All right, so those are the things you need to do. Your handle on Twitter is at Bose Pratap, one word,
Yep.
and of course mine is Sid Partner. So please do go ahead and tweet those answers to us. And a lot of you for some reason are saying I should wear a headset, and I am wearing it. I just concealed it better today for a change instead of having the wire dangled. So I don't know if that's because you're having an audio issue, because I've checked and my team says that we're good on audio. But anyway, right at the end is hardly when I should be asking this question to you. So thank you though for all the participation, and thank you so much for bringing so much to this conversation, Pratap. I mean, I always knew this was going to be fun, and I knew that we're going to go over time, but not like this. I think some of your colleagues are going to be wondering what the hell we are both up to. But thank you, because I know that you took out time from the afternoon. It is still working hours for you. I really appreciate this.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sid, always for having me. I think, I really enjoy conversations like this, which are truly freewheeling. I mean, we spoke about a lot of things today. And, again, thank you for having me and your whole team. And everyone who's watching, please stay safe, stay home. We'll get through this together. And when we do, please go and visit a Tata Motors dealership and showroom and experience all these cars for yourself and make your own judgment.
That is fair, and Pratap, of course, we'll keep hitting you up for many more opportunities where we can talk and share ideas. It's always fun,
Sure.
and I really look forward to it. I have to tell you that you're one of those people who I look forward to meeting, speaking with, and you always make it worth our while. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
And
Thanks
keep
a lot.
those fabulous designs coming. I mean, and keep pushing your engineering guys to make sure that the vehicles live up to your designs.
Good.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Pratap, and good afternoon to you again. Please take care of yourself. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so that then, ladies and gentlemen, was the one and only Pratap Bose, who is Vice President Global Design at Tata Motors and is the man responsible for all this huge transformation that so many of you have commented about today. It was an absolutely freewheeling session, and it really lived up to that title, as Pratap just said. And we've gone way, way over time here, but it's great to see that so many of you have hung around and stayed with us through this conversation. The bit about the planes at the end was one of the surprises, and then, of course, the challenge where Pratap drew those 3 sketches for you was the other. I still see many, many questions popping up, but I know I haven't been able to do justice to a lot of them, so apologies for that. But please keep freewheeling, stay safe wherever you are. If you must step out for essentials only, then please do wear your seatbelts and your helmets if you're on a two-wheeler. So take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and bye-bye. We will have another exciting episode for you very soon. So as is customary, I must quickly tease that for you. And you know what? It's been a busy week. So this particular week, it turns out we have people lined up for you every day of the week. And so here's who we have for you tomorrow. So Rajiv Chava, the man who heads MG Motor India, will join us on the show tomorrow, and that's in the evening, so something for you to look forward to. Please keep your questions ready for Rajiv. There's plenty for us to discuss in terms of the upcoming products, the delays, of course, because of the current crisis, what the whole China angle is all about. Let's not forget that MG Motor has its base in China, and so there is going to be that whole huge question mark on what happens with the association for the company, as well as even the practical side of bringing in the parts and the cars that it needs from its home base. So we'll talk about all of that with Rajiv, and I would love for all of you to join me. Thank you so much for this evening, and like I said, stay safe, and please wear your seatbelts if you step out. Bye-bye.